I'm CK. Today we've got one from Patching Panda. This is their patterns, which is a pattern generator and lots of outputs. I forget whether it's 6 or 8 outputs. And from their perspective, one of the main things is for live performances. You can easily switch between patterns as you're performing, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we'll get into as we put it together. I think it's got mostly surface mount pre-installed, but with all the outputs and inputs, there's going to be plenty of jacks to solder and probably some other things. So let's put it together, and I hope you enjoy the video. Here's the bag. Picked this up from thonk.co.uk, packed by Patching Panda in Barcelona. And as you know, we've done a number of Patching Panda modules over the years and like them pretty much. Let's pull everything out of the bag. Power connector, I've got so many of these. I think the front panel and circuit board is in here, and that's where we'll learn how much is surface mount pre-installed, which I think, since this bag is pretty much just pin headers and jacks, and this bag is unknown at this point. So we've got, okay, we'll look at the circuit board first, and as you can see, we've got switch, 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 switch. That's a pin header probably. Oops, this is upside down. Switch, switch, switch for setting all the pattern steps. Again, 2 pin headers. Jack, jack, jack. Out 1, out 2, out 3. Out. Actually, it doesn't have as many outs as I thought. Huh. Okay. This is reset, clock, a reset clock there. And on the back, we've got a bunch of surface mount capacitors and a couple of resistors, but no logic. So I bet this is some mini processor board that'll go on these 2 pin headers. I'm betting, let's look at the front panel and see what the words are. Patterns. Clock in, reset, pattern, out 1, out 2, out 3, out 4. Okay, 4 outs. Reset and clock out, I believe. Then we've got buttons 1 through 0, 11, 12, but I'm not sure how many steps are in each sequence, because these 1, 2, 3 are going to be the steps where you can put your triggers in. Then when you hold down shift, which is going to be somewhere probably, or you press some button or other to get copy, paste, probability, swing, length, clear. That's a die, which means it's probably random. Mute, clock divisions, shift. Oh, that's the shift button. Then there's record, hold, reset, clock, save, load. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of patterns, then a menu button, and then a pattern and chain button, and play. So that pattern, I believe, allows you to select a pattern on the fly and hit play so you can rapidly move between sequences you have. Let's open this up, because again, I believe this is Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Mini whatever. There's so many mini boards nowadays, I lose track. And I do not program them myself, and someday I'll explain why, but not today. Yeah, this is a big old board that they soldered together. They already soldered the pin headers on for us and the power supply, and that is also a power supply, a voltage converter, I believe. Input 6 to 28 volts, output 3.3 volts at 500 milliamps. That's nice. And then all the stuff. Here we've got a USB connection and another tiny pin header. I believe that would be for programming this if you wanted to. And the chip is an ST microprocessor. Many, many pins. We've got a 8 megahertz clock crystal. I can't really tell. Got one LED. A bunch of chips in here, which I'm trying to... I can't read the numbers right now. Some electrolytic caps, which I always like to double check their connections because these can get knocked over in transit. I've had it happen on 2 kits in the past. Oh, this is from 2025, and this is D71 in silver pen. Okay, so that will go, it'll go on these pin headers right there. Okay, so I don't know what these pin headers are going to be for. I really don't, because there's no matching pin header there. It shouldn't go in the front. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's look at the regular parts that we are going to actually put all together. Should be a bunch of switches and a bunch of other stuff. Ah, here we go. Here's another board that has... It's the same outs as here. It's the same jacks as here. I don't know why these are both here. Maybe it's a configuration thing that we'll get to later. Hopefully they have a good build guide. I couldn't find the build guide on the last one after I I forget which one it was. Here are all our buttons, and as you can see, they've got little colors. One pin has color markings. I think these are all red, but the main thing that you care about with the color markings is you're going to match them with the little plus sign on the circuit board so you get the LEDs actually firing off. And then we've got a bunch of Thunkaton jacks with the panel nuts already removed, which I always appreciate. Some spacers with the screws tucked away in them so they don't float away, and that's good. Panel nuts, some screws to mount it in the panel, even though I use Bafako knurlies to put everything in my panels or in my rig. And that's going to be it. So the only mystery to me is what goes here. Why does this exist? I really don't know why this would exist, unless it's for spacing. I'm going to try something real quick since we went through that so rapidly. I'm going to put one jack in, if I can. Come on! It's just a jack, little guy. And one switch in. And see how that mounts, because maybe they did that to raise the jack platform a little bit. So let me get that in there. Come on, button. Cooperate. Come on, button. So we're going to be supported by the jack on this end, and then you can see the little countersunk screw hole there. That's where spacers will be. I don't know which size. Spacers will be to support the front panel so it's not pressing on any of the switches. So I will find the build guide, get the soldering iron heated up, and we'll start putting this fella together. I downloaded the build guide, and yes, we are going to use that build up, this little board. And the reason why is because we're going to take the jacks and make them a little higher that way, so that when we put it together, the button is not sticking out so far. It'll have an extension which is about the depth of, where's the 610 pin headers? Which will be the depth of that, or height of that pin header. So that'll keep the top of that switch from being stuck out so far. So we will go do that right now, which means we're going to, and that's the first step in the build guide, and we're going to take the 2x4 mil spacers, 2 of them. Now this one doesn't have a screw in the end of it. Screw came loose. There it is. Let me get my little screwdriver. Nope, that's not the one I'm looking for. Oops. Of course, I'm reaching around for stuff and things are falling. What is falling all over the place? Just stop falling all over the place. Just trying to find the right screwdriver, guys. Yeah, that one will work fine. So we're going to take the spacer and put it on the back side. Of the circuit board. First I'm going to get this other screw out of here. Tighten this down. Now we'll take the other one and do the same thing. Of course, you want to make sure not to drop those spacers because they are small and round and they will roll off your workbench and they will go hide themselves somewhere, and we don't want to do that. Now we're going to take the 2 male pin headers, and there's a 1x5 like that, and the 1x6 will go over here, and insert the thicker, wider side of the pin. Ensure the wider side of the pins is inserted into the mini PCB. I'm not sure exactly what that means, because this looks like the way we want to do it according to those things. Okay, we're not soldering, and now we're going to do this. See, because what we're doing is instead of having all those inputs coming in through here, we're jumpering them with that little up with these pin headers. Of course, they fell out when I tried to do it, and they're all falling out. Stop falling out, guys. These holes are really big. Just going to set this down. Oop, setting it down is not the right answer because it's got things sticking through, so I will put it on some foam. It's kind of stuck into the foam, which is what I want. Now they're stable enough that I should be able to get these together just fine. Of course, You got to do it right side up, or else you're just going to mess up like I keep doing. There we go. Finally got that all together. Now we're going to put one of these screws in. Actually, I'll put both of them in. Because that will make sure everything is aligned properly. I'm not going to put them on too tightly because we're going to take this back apart. So we can put the jacks on the other side. What the heck? So I just snug those down a little bit, making sure everything is flat. It's reasonably flat. It's not really, got a little slop in it, but that's okay. We will solder these. Grab a piece of solder from somewhere. And we're going to fill these holes all the way up. Because again, the pins are a lot smaller than the holes, so we want to give it enough solder and let it flow down in the plated holes so we get a really good solid connection. You'll notice I'm loitering a little bit longer with the soldering iron once I've got the solder flowed to let it really seep down in. Okay. Now we're not soldering this side yet because of course we've got to take this back off and put the jacks on there. And that would not work out very well, would it? We'll take these screws out again and put them in this bin so they don't roll away. Now we're going to put the jacks on, and as he notes, these 6 jacks, each one shares a ground pin. These here have their own ground pins, which can be a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to do the middle one first, because that gives me a little more space on the inside and the outside to do the other ones. There's not much space in that ground pin hole for 2 pins. Let me see before I get too far into this. You gotta kind of shove the one you've already got in there back a little bit, and that can be a pain. In fact, it's being a pain. So what I'm going to do is be a tool user. Use this little screwdriver. So maybe that's a good idea. There we go. I kind of rocked the one back, as you can see, and then I was able to get both in. I didn't need the screwdriver. So I'm going to try to do that again here. Rock this back a little bit. Put that one in there. Did it go in? Yeah. Went in. Switch around, get 2 more. Maybe I'll do it the way I don't. You just did it successfully with 2 of them. Don't say, maybe I'll try it a different way. No, do it the way that you just did it successfully, buddy. It's a little more difficult today because I spent 8 hours today playing Elden Ring, so my thumbs are a little weak from joysticking it. Okay. Right, we've got that in there. So the jacks are fully seated, and then solder them. So what I'm going to do, just because I'm that kind of guy, is I'm going to actually align them right now with the board. With the front panel, to make sure these jacks will go on correctly later. It actually doesn't say that, which I'm surprised at. So I'm going to take a panel nut, even though these holes are pretty big, so you're not going to have too much of an issue with that. But now we will solder those. And that's all of those. I'm going to take it back, take this panel nut back off. And we'll set that little assembly to the side. Now we're going to go over to this board, and this is a little extra sprue from manufacturing, so we're going to wiggle it and bust it off. Now we're going to take the box headers that this thing is going to go onto, and to do that, we're going to put them in here. Like so. Come on, you can do it. Now we're going to take the board that's going to fit into them and get that lined up. Like so. I'm not going to put it all the way in. I'm just making sure they're aligned properly. And now I will solder all those pins, doing one pin on each first, just to make sure that if I get jostled, or I jostle myself, I won't have to realign things. And that's all those. So we know that will go together correctly when it becomes time to put them all together. But before we do that, we're going to put all these switches on. So he's telling us how to put these on, and you can see on the board there is a minus, on the switch bottom there's a minus sign and a plus sign. The minus sign is the one that's colored on the outside, that red streak. I'm verifying, I'm just quadruple checking it. Yep. So the red pin is away from the plus sign. Now we'll put them all on. So the in other words, the non-marked pin is the one that goes in the positive hole. These can take a little bit of pressure to get in, but you want to make sure when you put them in that you haven't bent a pin under. So once we get through with this, we're going to look at every switch leg. I'm going to turn the cameras off while I put the rest of these switches in, just because you've seen a couple go in and I've talked about it, and I want to... All the switches are in, they're not completely aligned yet. We'll be doing that in a little bit. But they are all in place, and they will stay in place when I flip the board over. And as I said, I'm going to flip the board over and look at all the pins for those switches and make sure none of them got bent during insertion. Make sure they all came through. And they did all come through. Did that one come through? Yes, it did. Okay. Now, we're going to put the jack board on. We're not going to be soldering these pin headers yet, but we are going to screw things together. Which is going to be a little bit of a pain because they're deep in there, but that's okay. Because it should stick on well enough for me to get it in place. Yes, it did. Got that finger tight. Get the other one. Okay, now I'll snug those down so they're finish tight. Okay, we still don't have the back PCB on them. We haven't soldered anything yet. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to put the front panel on. And again, we know that the jacks are lined up. Now we're going to go line by line with all the switches and get them aligned. Use my little pointy tool. I'm going to take this back off and make sure these are all as aligned as I can get them before I start this, even though it's not going to be, it's going to be tedious no matter how I do it. It was a little bit tedious, and you might have noticed I switched from using my plastic when I used my bent tweezers that have a rubber tip. Gave me a little more grip to manipulate everything around without marring anything. So now we're going to put a couple of panel nuts on here. Actually, I'll just put one panel nut on there for the moment. Now we're going to take the other two screws and get them in these spacers. And again, we haven't soldered any of the screws, any of the switches yet, because we're still going to do some final alignment with the screws and the jack panel nuts in place. Okay, so the bottom two spacers here are going to keep the board together, so we don't have to worry about anything like that, and also these spacers at the top with that one panel nut. Now we're going to go through each switch and make sure they click well. See, and this is why he built up this auxiliary circuit board, so that these switches don't have a whole bunch of shaft showing. It's just a very easy touch click. So check them all to make sure they all click. At the same time, you're making sure their legs are fully seated in the circuit board. And they appear to be all dandy. Now we're going to look. Oh, and his second to last step is make sure all the pins went through. Yeah, we checked that already, but it's a good reminder. Now we can solder everything. And that's just going to be a whole ton of soldering, including the pin headers. Don't forget that we hadn't soldered the pin headers for the auxiliary jack board, and if we forget to do that, we will be very confused when it doesn't work. So I'm going to do those first. Now you do have to be careful. There are a couple of surface mount resistors and capacitors on this board, and you don't want to get your soldering iron on top of those. So I'm just going to be soldering all those pins, so I'm going to turn the cameras off again, because you don't need to see all that soldering. If you want to see all that soldering, leave a comment, and I'll figure out how to make a separate version with just ASMR CK soldering. While I was finishing up the soldering, FedEx van came up, and I got my next box from Thonk, so we got lots of modules to come. So I soldered everything, and as I mentioned earlier, and he suggests in the build guide, I double-checked all the solder points. They all look good. I also went ahead and put the rest of the panel nuts on. Next step and final step of assembly is to put this on, and as you can see, that's not right. So we want to flip that around like so. Actually, let me double check that, just because I'm not going to be too goofy. It doesn't have a side view of the completion, a complete picture of it. That's interesting. His build guide's very good, but it would have been nice to have one final check. But as you can see, this makes the boards parallel with each other, match each other completely, so we'll just push that on in. There we go, got that clicked in. That's kind of interesting. So this is the way it looks when it's done. That's the front, the side, all silver, other side all red on the switches, the back where we'll put the power connector in, the top, and the bottom. Now, as I was thinking about this and playing with it a little bit, one advantage this has over, say, this Robox sequencer, which is of basically the same ilk, is these buttons are take a very light press, and they don't press very far, where the rubbery or silicone buttons on the robot take a good bit more pressure and throw, and they're a little wigglier too, so you gotta make sure you're pushing straight down to make sure the carbon annulus hits the circuit board. So that's one advantage of that. Also, interestingly enough, even though this has 8 outputs and this only has 4, this is quite a bit narrower. But that's it. Now we're going to set up for giving this a test, and I got to read the manual a little bit more because there's a lot to do with this. So it'll be a little bit, but you won't notice because it's just going to be a cross dissolve for you. Let's give this fella a spin. I've got it in my little benchtop testing box, testing rack, because I wanted to be able to not have to do it vertically on my other rack because I'm going to be playing with a bunch of stuff. And one other thing, I may be a little confused on some of this. I just got back from a month in Mexico, and I forget some of the things that are in here. But that's okay, and of course you didn't notice because I upload videos to cover my times away, so you never know when I'm away until I come back. So let's turn the main box on. That'll be my oscillator LFO, and I'm going to be using this little hi-hat as the sound source. for this one today. And then I'm going to use this little Bafako portable, not portable, but mini power supply just for fun. I built this a little while ago. The video went up probably 2 weeks ago by the time this goes live. It's a very handy thing, so we'll turn that on. And we've got, as you can see, we've got some flashing. We don't have anything going on right now. Let me turn my little amp up. Now I'm going to hit play. And I'm going to go to pattern 1. And as you can see, there's nothing on pattern 1, so we'll start adding stuff like you normally would. Now we'll go to pattern 2, and again, we don't have anything on pattern 2 right now. So those are the two different patterns, and we can switch between them. Actually, let me make this more distinct so you can tell the difference. Back to pattern 2. And if you notice, there's a little bit of a delay when we switch patterns because it's got to play to the end of the pattern before it repeats back around, which makes sense. Now I'm going to stop that for a minute, and I'm going to go, that's the pattern, and I'm going to set the length to 8. I think that did it. I will admit I'm a little confused about some of this. Now we'll see if that did work. Yep. So now the length of pattern 1 is at 8. Now we'll go over to pattern 2. And I'm going to stop it just so I don't confuse myself and go length on that one. Oh, I need to do that. There, now it knows it's in pattern 2. I'm sorry, this gets a little confusing. And I'm going to make that 12 long. And now we will play that. And you can see it's gone to 12 long, which is all good. And again, we can switch between patterns very quickly. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Pattern 2 again. Back to pattern 1. So that all works. I'm going to stop that for a minute, and I'm going to go to an external LFO to time this, because that's always fun. Set the clock in there, and now we'll go to play. I'm going to slow the LFO down. I'm not, what did I do wrong? Hold on. There'll be a bit of a break here while I figure out what I did wrong there. Oh, okay. Okay, I see it. I was, again, there's a lot of things here that you got to memorize. So we're going to toggle between, so we go to menu 14, which is clock. Now that should be on the outside. Nope. Menu clock. I'm not getting that right. Hold on a second. Okay, do menu clock. And then we hit clock again. There we go. And the LFO is not firing, so let me fire it off. So as you can see, that's how we do the menu. External or internal clock. I'm going to go back. So now I remember how to do it. Menu 14, hit 14 again, and there you go. Now we're on internal clock, and I can get rid of this. And we can set the BPM. Oh, okay. So, let's see. 9, 10, 11. If you're using the internal clock, you can manually set the BPM. Press 2 numeric buttons. So we'll go 1, 8. And then 11, enter. Okay, so that's 18. Oh no, it should be 180 BPM, but it's not. Let's go back to 120. Well, that's not working the way I thought. Using the internal clock, you can manually set the BPM. Press 2 numeric buttons to enter the BPM value. So let's see, 1, 2. No. Maybe I'm trying to press them simultaneously. So that's not working for me. Let me take it back out of menu. Maybe it's supposed to be menu clock. 1, 2, enter. Okay, now I've got that all messed up. So what this is telling me, I can't get it to do. So I'm going to go back to using the external clock before I'm going to figure this out. Button 14. Let me plug this back in. Okay, so we'll skip that because I'm obviously doing something wrong, even though I think I'm just doing exactly what it says, but that's okay. Now we're going to do So I'm looking, okay, so that's probability. I'm going to stop this for a second. You assign probability by tap a step button multiple times to change. But again, I think you have to press the button first, don't you? I think I do, but that's what I'm going to try. So do menu and then that, and that's on and flashing. And then we'll do probability of, well, this is, I'm not sure what the heck is going on here. I'm sorry. This is not always the clearest thing in the world. Go back to just playing. Because if you'll see here, let me show you for a second. Copy is menu plus button 1, paste is menu plus button 2. To assign a probability, there's no menu plus button. Everything else has that. So I'm not, I think it's the dice button, button 7, because that's typically probability, but I'm not going to figure that out right now. I apologize, but this is kind of goofy. Now I'm going to do a little swing. So what we're going to do is menu plus button 4, and then I'm going to do a swing of 50, I think. Now we'll see what it does. Yeah, that's kind of swinging. That's good. Now we're going to do any number below 50 disables swing, so I will do that. And get back out of it. And there, I've gotten rid of the swing. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff for copy, paste, and so on, which I'm not going to do right now because that's kind of whatever. Now menu plus button 7 is actually random. Again, I don't know what probability is. This doesn't, there's no, so let's see, we're doing this. We're on pattern 1. Go back to menu, to random. And we can go toggle it back and forth. As you may be able to tell, now we're in random because the little dot is hopping all around. But you can toggle it back and forth without having to repress menu, which is nice. Now I'm going to get back out of that. We'll leave it into that. Let's go a little further. Clock division, I'm not going to do that. Record, hold. Oh, so you can hold. So menu plus, if we're going along and we want to hold, well, that's not doing what I thought it would be doing. Oh, well, you got to press an active step. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Press any active step to apply hold. Exit, press menu. But, so we've got hold on. And we've got the whole button is flashing. So it is doing something there, you can hear it. But I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what it's doing. So I just changed the pattern a little bit again. So we can try that again. Menu, hold, and we'll hold on that one. So again, I don't know what the heck that's doing. Okay. Clock menu, we've played that. Pattern mode, switch pattern, copy and paste, CV pattern switching. Let's see what we can do on CV pattern switching. No, I'm not going to do that. Chain mode. So we're going to press menu and pattern. Now we're in pattern button. The pattern button will start blinking, which it is. Press any pattern 1 to 16 in the order you want them to play. So we're going to do 1, 2. You can see it switching back and forth between the patterns, so we can chain them all the way as we want. And as you notice, we can chain on the fly, so you're not stuck in a particular setting if you don't want to be. We'll go back out of that. So that's good. And that's it. That's all the steps except for the ones that I couldn't get quite right. I'm not too worried about that, obviously. And obviously everything we've done holds true across all the patterns. So if I go over here to 2 and I pull up the patterns for 2, should be working. I don't know why it's not working. Oh, because I was in that mode. Now we're in pattern 2. I probably have the length wrong. Okay, well that's not working for me. Again, this is... Oh, I have the LFO down. That's why. Let's go back to what I was doing. Then we'll go over to pattern 2. I mean channel 2, which is coming out 2, and you can see it's getting me what I want. And then we're not on channel 3, so let's go to out 3, and same thing. So that's it. And again, it's a very good unit. There are some things obviously I can't figure out because they don't seem to follow they don't seem to be doing what the instructions thing says, but that's probably my problem, not theirs. The only thing I am very confused about is the probability button, because to assign probability, I don't know what that means, because it doesn't seem to match anything that we're doing. But again, a good kit. Obviously the key challenge when you're building this thing is getting the front panel over all these little buttons. Just take your time, get a nice soft thing to mush them around with. As you can see, I used the you saw me, I used the rubber tip on my tweezers, rubber cover tip on my tweezers to manipulate those all around. But it's a good little unit, and as I said, I like it better than the, and I think I said it. If I didn't say it, I'll say it again. Let me grab what I'm talking about. Hold on while I find what I'm talking about. I got so many modules around here. So I like it better than the Robot one, not for features and functionality, because they've both got a lot of good stuff. But for me, these mush buttons require a little more push, a little more pressure, and I'm never quite sure I've made contact, particularly when I've had mounted in a vertical rack. So these buttons are very, you know what's going on with these buttons. To length again. Oh, and it all works great. But again, I like it very much. Another good one from Patching Panda. And I hope you enjoyed the video.